Hello, everyone, and welcome to Making Comics Now. My name is Jim Rugg. DJ Coffman is away on business. He's not skipping out on VFriends today. He's actually at the office doing some presentations and doing some work there in person. So he won't be joining us this week, but we have a terrific guest this week. We are joined today by Ali Castro, a member of the VFriends Comics team. I think the last member of the VFriends Comics team that we've had on here. So we've kind of been hoping to get you on, Ali. I'm so happy to finally have you here. Welcome to Making Comics Now. And
Thanks so much.
to everybody watching, say hello to Ali. She has been part of the VFriends Comics team since sometime before I showed up. I met her at my first creative offsite. I think it was the second creative offsite for the VFriends Comics team. And I'm pretty excited to kind of talk to you, Ali, about your background in comics. You're here today because you are the writer and artist of VFriends Comics number 14, Doggy Daycare. That will be coming out next week. And we're going to preview that a little bit today and kind of walk through your process, look at some of that artwork, and basically talk all things comics with Ali Castro today. Before we do that, I do want to do a little bit of VFriends business here at the top. And that means talking about what we have coming up here in the next couple of weeks or so. The first item of business is the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, known as C2E2. This is going to be March 27th and through the 29th, which is next week, very soon. It's like we've just started doing comic book shows and they're all in March.
Yeah.
So I've never done this show somehow. This is one of the big comic book shows. You know, it's kind of on par with the Emerald City Con that we were at earlier this month. It's probably a little bit smaller than New York Comic Con, but it's one of the big comic book shows in the US every year. They've been doing this for quite some time. I know it's a really good artist show. A lot of my friends who are comic book artists do this show. So for the first time, you will be able to find VFriends. I'm not sure if we're in Artist Alley or close to Artist Alley, but we'll be posting that on our socials. So if you're anywhere in the Chicago area, we will be bringing VFriends to you next weekend, coming to your hometown. Some of the other stuff that is coming up. Mindful Minakawa, VFriends number 12 issue is now available to read on VFriends.com for free. So go check that one out. Shameless plug here. I was the writer on this one. Jeremy Heiler is the artist. It's a kaiju comic. We've talked about that in past episodes. You can also buy this comic now on VFriends.com, but just want to let everybody know that it is available there now for you to read for free. Some other stuff very quickly at the top here. VFriends 13 Farm Fights. This is my first written and drawn comic for VFriends. This came out last week. Thank you to everybody that picked this up already. We had a really good launch Friday night. I've been seeing a lot of social media with it. Ali, one of your specialties. Thank you. And I've been hearing back from people on it that are very excited by it. Probably nobody more excited than me, but this book is now out and available at VFriends.com, and it will be coming to VFriends.com soon in a format that everybody can read from the comfort of their own home. This week in comic shops, I did a variant cover for Lucky Devils number 7. Friend of mine, Ryan Brown, is the artist and co-creator of this book along with Charles Soule. I've done covers for a couple of Ryan's books. I'm a big fan of him. He's a great artist. Maybe we'll try to pull him into the VFriends circle at some point to do something or other for us. But I'm very happy whenever he asks me to do anything. So this is my contribution to the Lucky Devils. Cool. Finally, we've mentioned this in the past. This is a Kickstarter for Stephen R. Bissett's Tyrant. It's a collection of his 1990s dinosaur comic. It was a biography of a T-Rex. It was never collected, and now we are doing collected editions. I am the designer of 2 editions that we are publishing through Kickstarter. One is a reproduction of his original art, what's known in comics as an artist edition. This is when we reproduce the original art. It's like 11 by 17 inch original, so bigger than a comic book. And you get to see kind of all the marks on the paper, sometimes pencil marks, all the different media that's used. I think it's one of the most beautiful comics ever made. So I'm really excited to have an artist edition style of this book. And we are also doing what we call the complete edition, and that collects all of the comic books, the back matter, sketches, behind the scenes, essays from paleontologists and other cartoonists. It's kind of like the big deluxe treatment of this work. So this is available now. It just launched 2 days ago, and we are doing really well with that. Thank you for everybody that supported that so far. But if you like dinosaurs, or you have someone in your life that likes dinosaurs, this is a book that you want to check out. So give that a look. There's still a few weeks left to hop on there.
So cool.
All right. So back to Ali. And the reason that we are here, anything you want to tell us about Doggy Daycare before we kind of jump in and take a peek at the artwork there? Are you a dog person? Do you have a dog?
I do have a dog. This is my dog, Strawberry.
Oh, wow.
The cutest dog on the planet. I'm not biased. She really is that cute. Very small. But yeah, I'm a dog person. I love dogs. But I think, I got Doggy Daycare just because when we were at the writers retreat, sometimes, Gary will pitch an idea and I'm just like, I see it. So I started drawing them, and I did some fan art of the dogs. And I think that, after that, everyone was like, why don't you do Doggy Daycare? And I was like, okay, sure. So I really got into my dog space with this. I'm excited because it's my first comic book published. So that's kind of a huge deal to me. Of course, like the imposter syndrome that everybody faces is always like kicking in, and I'm like, oh no, it's my first one. Is it going to be up to par? But sometimes when you first make something, you just kind of just got to relinquish it. You just got to be like, okay, it's done. Here you go, and move on. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I'm really trying to be like, it's great. It's great. It's the first one.
It's interesting to hear you describe that part. That's something we've talked about with different creators that have come on here. But whenever a new book is done, and especially whenever the new book is actually released to the public, I feel like it's almost an adrenaline surge or something. Like, it's such a strange experience of like, you work so hard on this thing, mostly in isolation, and now suddenly strangers and everybody just gets to read this and comment on it. I think I think the feedback is going to be very positive on Doggy Daycare. I have had the good fortune of reading it already. I think it's terrific. And but I do think it's interesting to hear your point of view on that, Ali, because if you're not a creator, I don't know if you understand kind of the butterflies that come with this, right?
Yeah.
And especially, if you haven't made a lot of books yet, it's just such a big deal. And I still think it's a big deal. I've been doing this for 25 years. And when Farm Fights came out last week, it was a huge deal to me. So I hope that feeling never goes away. But I also wonder, as a reader and a fan, I don't always think that way whenever I'm picking up a new book, or whenever some creator has a new book out. It's just exciting to me because it's like, this looks cool. I can't wait to see it. But I don't always think about what they might be going through behind the scenes.
It's always like, it's very vulnerable, like to show something that you've put so much time and effort in. And then like, it's art, at the end of the day, art is subjective. So like, there's bound to be people who don't like it, people who like really like it more than you even thought people would like it. So it's always like, yeah, it's a butterfly in the stomach experience for sure. I'm really excited about it. I also hi to chat. I'm seeing all the chats. I just want to recognize y'all. Say I've been reading. Thanks for the love and everything. That's been really nice to see.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the people who have joined us, do stick around, because you'll have a chance to ask Ali some questions too as we get a little bit further along in the show. But for now, I'm going to share our Miro board and actually show off some of your beautiful artwork, Ali.
Thanks. Glad you let your dogs out, Ali. That's hilarious. Yeah, I did. I went wild.
It's so good to have somebody who is a dog person, obviously, on this book. I don't know whether it would even work, somebody that's not a dog person. Yeah. We can start with your covers here. It's pretty fun too, some of the material that you put together, like not just the cover art, but also some of these ideas of the file folder, right? Because the story here is these dogs kind of work together, and they have the secret life, and you've added some cool graphics that go along with that. But your
Yeah.
cover is, I'll be honest, it is a challenge to do. I consider this a team book. And a
Mm,
team book to me is a lot harder to do than like one main character. So kudos to you for being able to pull together several characters and make a good looking composition on a cover. Not an easy thing
thanks.
to pull off.
Yeah, that was it was pretty I want to say challenging to do. I was inspired by there are a lot of team cover, things. So like I was looking at a lot of like Marvel posters and like superhero posters, just to see how they're doing it. And I wanted to give this like really badass feel to these dogs and highlight the badassery that's going on in the comics, and make sure that they're all doing like kind of relevant things to the comics as well. Like we have the I always forget her name because it's so long. Magnanimous Maltese wearing the Eye of Intuition around her neck, which is part of the huge part of the plot. And then we have our cats in the corner who are our little villains of the book. And yeah, we
Natural
have
enemies of the dogs, I suppose.
exactly. They were fun actually. They're not VFriends technically. They're just added characters, and that was really fun to design some cat burglars. Make them
Very
look a
cool.
little unique and interesting.
While we're previewing covers, I should mention to everybody this is Agnes Garbowski's cover, the variant cover or the cover B, for issue 14. And Agnes is that we actually met a little bit in LA. We had a VFriends get together during Comics Pro, and she lives in LA. So she had come out to the Comics Pro event she does a ton of other comics and artwork. But she joined us at the VFriends get together and was doing I don't know, quick sketches and stuff for some of the fans that showed up. So I like her cover as well. I feel like she did a really good job as well. And I think she's done
She
some Teen
did.
Titans things in the background, and so has some experience with doing a team or an ensemble, or trying to figure out how you put a bunch of characters on a cover and still make it look cool and read and everything. So great to
Yeah,
have her on. She may be
I
joining
was
us
so
next
geeked
week.
about that. I was so
Yeah,
excited to hear
she
that she was doing that because, like, I'm a Teen Titans fan for sure. So when I was looking up all of her art, I was like, "Oh my gosh, can't believe it! Like, this is so cool for your first, for my first comic. Like, that's like awesome." I'm so geeked about that part, and she really made like them look. I keep pitching to people when I tell them about this comic that it's like Ocean's 11 dogs basically, and this intro like really looks Ocean's 11 to me. So yeah, I'm geeked about it.
I'll tell you, both of you did something that I admire, and that is having the characters really being expressive, right? Like it feels like these characters all have a different personality and they all are doing something. And again, that's not that easy. There's so many comic book covers that you can point to where it's, oh, that's just a cool pose of this character, as opposed to, oh, you can see their personality coming through in their body language and what they're doing. And I think both of you actually do that really well with these covers. So kind of brings the
Hey,
characters to life, if you will. Here is a preview of the bag art, also featuring your artwork, Ali.
yep.
Agnes's cover will be on the back of that, but kind of showing off what to expect from the bagged art as we start to get into promoting this more heavily this week and into the release next week. But very nice. All right.
Thanks. Yeah.
So let's scroll through a couple of pages to give everybody a little bit of a preview here of what they're going to see whenever they actually open the book. That's such a great. I love this so much as like a spy graphic, with the dog. It feels perfect, like it's out of cartoons.
Yeah.
You mentioned
It's
Ocean's 11. It feels like it's all part of that world.
thank you. Yeah, it definitely I was, we have to design what people might not think about when we're making comics and stuff is not only are we making the stories, but we're making the bag arts and like the cover pages and just the little things to kind of build the world around it that isn't necessarily like plot driven, but it just like really just sets the theme. So yeah, I was going for this like spy feel. Everything's like really high tech. Um And yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about when I was going into it.
Yeah, it's nice with these Miro boards, and I don't know how much of that is going to be visible here, but like doing kind of like the sketches and working out the designs of characters and things like that. I feel like that's where some of these ideas come out of, like, oh, what's a high-tech screen look like with these dogs, Um, and
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to play around with that and to actually put that kind of work out there where you can see it outside of your head and sort of evolve it a little bit more naturally that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And also like, deciding what features and like how you're going to display the character. Like you can tell from these two pictures, even Dialed in Dog has like a completely different face in these two. One he has like this longer snout nose. And then the other, he's like more cutesy. And so I was really deciding like what's gonna stand out, not only like for drawing his facial expressions, but also like what's gonna set him aside from the other dogs. So yeah, I went for this like longer snout look instead of the soccer image. Though I really like the soccer image, that was like really fun and turned out way better than I was expecting. It was kind of like a last minute, like, "Hey, Ali, can you draw this?" And I was like, "Sure." And then I just dove into it. And sometimes when I don't know about you, but sometimes when I create art, and you could definitely see it in the comic book, is I get lost in detail. Like I'm so naughty when it comes to zooming in because I'll zoom in and then I'll work super hard. And then, like, when you zoom out, it's like, oh, you can barely see the details that I worked so hard on. Yeah, I end up doing that a lot in the comic.
It's such a really inside baseball conversation, but I have had this with several of my friends where we kind of talk about limiting how much you zoom
Yeah.
in order to control the amount of detail that you're packing in there, because now with digital tools, like, it's kind of nuts. Like, you really can get into detail that no human eye is going to see this whenever it's printed or whenever it's published, even on screen, unless you have
Yeah.
that ability to zoom in like 1500% or something.
Yeah. And another thing about this comic is I'm gonna say it endlessly. It is my first one, so I didn't realize, the the balance when it comes to like filling a page with action and story and stuff. I had so much to say. I was so excited. And there's so many characters as well, right? That I'm constantly trying to highlight and make sure they feel included. So like all of these pages are really jam packed with panels and word bubbles and personally, like I like, huge like, pages with like a few panels. I think that's great because like the art like will usually take like shine there. But because of my 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 endless zooming in and stuff, like each panel I put like a lot of work into it. And something that I always have to remind myself is that not everybody stares at each panel for like 10 minutes, like to people sometimes they'll just read it and scroll right past. So yeah, that's a challenge that I kind of was facing with this comic.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch this come together and see your layouts and kind of see how dense they were. I think it reads really well. I don't think that the density is a problem in terms of the storytelling. I think it would be hard as the artist, you know. If you handed me this script, I would be very unhappy as the artist with the amount that you have going on each page. But you've done a really good job of actually shining these characters and kind of showing them off and allowing them to all have their own personalities and be doing a lot as we go through these pages. And it starts, right on page one. You can see kind of all the dogs that are already at the daycare and all doing their own thing based on their personalities. That's a lot to pull off on a page, let alone one panel to establish all of that. Yeah, the clarity
For
of your
sure.
storytelling is really impressive especially for how much you actually have going on these pages. It's also very broad. You think about like, oh, dogs, this is cute or whatever, but you're able to do kind of the spy stuff and make it really fun as well, like the gadgets and the screens and all of the elements that give them their high tech secret headquarters part. That stuff really works really, really well, also.
Yeah,
And
that stuff was really fun. I actually drew this page at Comic-Con, at New York Comic-Con. So like that was really fun. I had an audience for this whole page. And I don't know, like it was really fun to watch people come by and watch me figure out the layouts and stuff like that.
That's wild. I can't believe you could do this, concentrate at a comic convention and actually do real work there. I'm so bad at those shows for doing anything.
Yeah.
Even in the off hours, I'm not too useful after a day at the show. This is
It's
this is
actually
great though. This
pretty.
is
Sorry?
Well, I was just going to say for everybody watching, this is kind of your intro page where you name all the dogs. X-Men used to do this like every issue. It would be in the danger room and they would have like the little name of each character, same kind of setup that you have here. So I was just showing off the cast to everybody watching at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say that at Comic Con, it maybe because of my ADHD or something, like it's actually really easy for me to draw while like talking to people. Even when I'm drawing by myself, I have to have like some sort of thing playing or something. I'm trying to be better at it because the focus and being locked in and like getting into that flow state sometimes can be stronger when you don't have all those distractions. But like for my brain, I'm like, I don't know. I'll be thinking of different things, and then I'll be like, oh, I need to go make eggs. Oh, I need to walk Strawberry. Like I'll just get so distracted with other things. So it's like if I'm being told a story or if I'm talking to someone, like I love when my friends call me while I'm drawing. It's pretty easy for me to like lock into what my hands are doing versus what my brain is doing. But yeah.
Do you have a go-to that you listen to? Like, are you a music person, a podcast person? Do you call your friends and talk?
I am a podcast person for sure. One of my favorite, I don't know, it's not always a podcast, but there's this channel, this YouTube channel called Smosh. I love Smosh. It's like just a bunch of actors who get together. They like play games, they read Reddit stories, they tell jokes and stuff like that. So honestly, it feels like I'm just hanging out with them sometimes. I might have a little parasocial relationship with the whole cast, but they're really cool people and they have like great content that I can just like put on in the background, listen to their jokes and draw. It's really nice.
That's awesome. Walk us through a little bit of this story. I don't want you to give away any spoilers, but tell us what's going on here. We see now the Doggy Daycare cast has assumed secret identities, or at least put on clothes to go out and run a mission. Can you tell us what exactly they're doing in this issue?
Yeah, so in this issue, they start at their daycare and stuff, and then as soon as their families leave, as soon as the last person drops off their dog, they lock in and they get ready for this mission to go and steal the Eye of Intuition before it gets taken by their enemies, the cat burglars. So there's something in the works being made. They're not too sure what it is, but they know that this team of shady individuals are building something dangerous, and one of the things that they need to build this thing that they're not too sure what it is, they just know that it's a thing that they need, is this Eye of Intuition, which is like a necklace, or that's what they assume, right? There's some miscommunication that goes on when the briefing is going on. It's kind of like a joke. I don't want to give it away, but has to do with dogs. And they basically, there's some miscommunication, and they end up going and I'm trying to think of a way to say this without giving too much away. They go and things end up in not the way that they planned, basically. But yeah, that's kind of
you
what
can't you
happens.
can't have a heist without some twists and turns. So
Precisely.
if it all went smoothly, it wouldn't be a very interesting story. I love this moment. The workout dummy, the cat.
Yeah.
That's a great detail, and I
Thanks. It's
feel like
one
the
of the cats
story
that
is
they see.
full of those. So very cool. And like I said, you see them here kind of going undercover to infiltrate this party, this fundraiser, and to basically go after their target before somebody else gets it. It's a
Yeah.
fun story. I don't want to spoil anything, but we can probably look at a little bit more. And your colors really stand out, Ali. Like the shift from the various locations here in Doggy Daycare to now we're out on at night at a party.
Mhm.
It's a totally different setting, and you capture that very well with your colors, which I don't know if those come from an animation background or something like that, but I think it works really well, and it looks different than most comic books that I see. So
Thanks. It probably does because that is like my background is like I've been super obsessed with animation since I was a kid. Um, I I love colors. I feel like I rely on them a lot for my signature style. Like people can tell by the colors I choose. And I don't know, like something about it makes it feel like it's coming out of the page to me. Or like I'm watching it be animated just due to the colors. That's just what appeals to me. Um, Something fun that I want to share though, if you'll go back to that party page, where they're talking to all the people, I added a few because I don't people won't know this unless I say it. I added a few celebrities just because during the time that I was drawing this, like Sinners had just come out. So if you go to the other one, that's just the bouncer who is modeled after my dad, if everyone was wondering. But
that's
yeah, we have
fun.
like yeah, we have a nod to Ryan Coogler, who just won his Oscar. Congratulations to him. But I watched Sinners, so like we have Ryan Coogler, and then if you zoom in, there's a detail where there's like a vampire in the back. Just like a little fun nod to the Sinners movies. Yeah, he does that with his vampires. So um, there's that vibe, and then I think below it, like kitty corner to it, that's Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, because at the time I think I had just found out that they were engaged or something. So that was like big talk. And I was like, I'll include this. I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, but I was like, I figure people might, I don't know, maybe not. But yeah, it was
That's
fun to add.
fantastic. My wife will appreciate that. This is going to be her
Cool.
favorite comic book of all time, by the way. She loves dogs. She loves Taylor Swift, so
Oh,
she'll appreciate a Taylor Swift Easter egg in there. But this one's going to be right up her alley. No pun intended. But yeah,
yeah.
it's funny. My wife loves to read, but is not a big comics reader. But I still kind of like show her stuff as it comes in, and this will be one that she gets to see, and I think she will really appreciate and enjoy.
Oh, I love that. I
I
hope
was looking
so.
at this page because there's some really cool stuff on here. I love this, like again, figuring out a way to have 5, 6 characters on a page and all make sense and read and be themselves. It's great. Like this is a really
Mm,
practical panel. It's almost like choreography or something where it makes sense what they're doing. That's not always easy to draw. Takes advantage
yeah,
of the wide panel. That's really awesome. And then once they get in, once again, it's a whole nother environment and this laser stuff. I think it really showcases the fun that is in this book. And I
for
think
sure.
people are going to kind of enjoy watching these characters put through their paces as this story unravels.
Yeah,
All right.
the challenge for that page was the sounds. Like I was like, how do I make it seem like they're moving, aside from just the poses, and the speed lines. I was like, I want people to hear the duh, 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 duh. So like I was like, I don't know, I can't just put da 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 a lot. So, figuring out how to make different sound effects was like definitely a challenge for me. But something it was fun to figure out.
This is an amazing sequence. I love how some of the lasers cross over multiple panels, like this one, but then in other places, the panels are well defined and the lasers aren't continuing into the other panels. It really makes for a great page layout effect. I don't know if you
Thanks.
completely invented this or dreamt it or how you come up with this, but
That was an
this
accident, actually.
wow.
It was, yeah, like basically when I was doing the panels, I'll do the panels and I'll mask them so that like everything I draw is within the panel. And then so I was doing the lines or the lasers outside of the mask, and then I was liking how it looked, and I was like, and then I would mask it, and then I was like, it feels so closed in, it doesn't feel as chaotic as I wanted it to. So I just left I turned off the mask, and then I kind of went in and cleaned up the lines too, like as you can see, like outside of the panels it's like this darker red.
Mhm.
And I wanted to do that because I still wanted the panels to pop but include the chaos of the lasers going out, if that makes sense. So there is like a slight difference between the lasers within the panels and the lasers without, but yeah, I think it looks cool.
It does look cool. It really captures motion, which is, a challenge if you're making comic books because these are static drawings, but it's a great page for capturing that motion. It feels like these dogs are really kind of dancing and falling and tripping through this maze. So well done. I
Thank
think
you.
that might be as much as we show of the actual
Okay.
sequential
I
pages because they
I was
did you.
curious if you can show it without like exposing too much. There's a panel of the dogs like taking off after the heist. That's this one. This is probably my favorite page. Uh I love it so much. I love the way it turned out. And the fun thing about this page is I designed so like I sketched out all of the pages, and then we did the inks. And this one I was just like it was so vivid in my head. I needed it color it. I needed to color it. So it was like one of the first things that I colored as well. And I don't know it. One thing about my art style is I always tend to include the moon. I don't know, it's something about the full moon. Um, I'm very drawn to the moon and night. So there's a lot of the moon in this page. So like that makes me so happy. And then the good dog is so cute, dialed in dog doing this like release the hounds. That's exactly how I hear him say it. My mind is like release the hounds, and they go crazy. And then I added this like this one just has so much of me reflected in it because I added this like hang on tight, my little spider monkey, which if people don't know is a it's a joke and a reference to Twilight. And growing up, I was a big Twilight girl, and he says this like cheesy line like hang on tight my spider monkey. So I included that. I don't know, hopefully people will know the reference. But, yeah, overall it just like it fills me with so much glee, this panel. It's like, or this whole page, it's so cute. And then when they take off and they all look like badass, like taking off in their different ways, I was kind of thinking of a, how can they have like a quick escape, and I didn't want them all to do the same thing. I kind of wanted them to have different ways to escape, and I really think Pug is so cute with his with his jetpack. I'm like, yeah, he'll be like the coolest one. So overall, yeah, I really love this page. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, it's awesome. The whole page layout's nice too. I love that we start on the top of this building and that's like the background of the page until it
Mm.
fades into the sky at the bottom. Good stuff. And I commend you again for, that's a lot of extra creativity of like, let's find different flying suits or mechanisms for each character. It's really good work. It really makes a
Thanks.
team book stand out, because each of them, it continues the idea that each of them has their own personality. And yeah, it's a great page. I remember seeing this page. I guess we might be able to see it in the rough layouts here, and
Yep.
being it was very well received as we looked at this one week. I remember going through it in a meeting and just being like, oh yeah, this is this is good stuff. Well, very awesome, Ali. Hopefully
Thank
everybody at
you.
home now is super psyched for this upcoming release. It'll be here before you know it. Like I said, next week this will be the big VFriends comic book release, so you'll probably see a lot of Ali over the next week or two. I assume you'll do some of the live streaming and do some of the promo for this, but
Yeah,
that little teaser for Doggy Daycare, I thought that we would talk a little bit about your background as an artist because
for sure.
I think a lot of people would love to work for Gary Vee in some capacity, and you have worked for him in a couple of capacities. So your role to becoming a VFriends comic book artist, tell us about that. Tell us how you got to this point.
Yeah. So I'll start with like when I moved to LA with the hopes of being an actress at first. And I went to school for acting. I have a degree in theater and things like that. And then when I got here, I've always been an artist. When I was doing things for theater, I was doing selling my art to people in order to make money for like different trips and things like that. And so when I came out here, I already knew how to hustle when it came to art. I didn't see it as like a secure avenue, but then I was like, I don't want to do any office jobs or anything that's not creative. So I was doing everything, anything and everything creative. I was face painting. I was doing lots of album covers and lots of just anything anybody asked me to do, I would basically say yes, regardless of what type of artist they needed. So I was doing graphic design, I was doing album covers, like I said, posters, stories, and some on that panel is just like some of the on the Miros, like some of my previous work to get to the point that I'm at now. And I ended up getting a residency at at VaynerMedia, basically just showing them some animation, some really rough animations that they asked me to do for to audition supposedly. And I think my enthusiasm, my willingness to learn and everything got me hired as a resident for 3 months. You work for 3 months at VaynerMedia as a resident. They teach you things. They give you access to Adobe, which I never had access to. It was my first time learning literally all of the industry standard stuff. And I did that for about 2 years, until I was hired as a creative, and then I got to a senior creator, and basically I was just doing a lot of editing, lots of editing, lots of filming for, Indeed. I was working on Thomas the Toy Train, Chosen Foods, Land's End, like different professional companies, I suppose, and making content for them. And every time I would beg them, like, let me draw something for your company, let me do an animation, let me do something. They just really wanted me to make regular content, like show my face, regular influencer stuff. And uh, I just wasn't getting it there. And I was like, oh, I really want to be an artist. Like, I'm really learning that, like, that was calling to me way more than the theatrical stuff, actually, the just acting on screen. Just because I wanted to tell stories, and I was really falling in love with color and animation in general. So I was begging at VaynerMedia if I could teach some art classes there. Me teaching people with graphic design degrees art classes was just so funny. But you fight through that imposter syndrome. Like, I was very big on like telling everyone I am an artist. I am, at the time I was telling everyone I am an animator, not an animator, but you fake it till you make it. I was convincing everyone so that whenever there was an opportunity that was art related, they would think of me, because I was just so relentless with my I'm an animator, I'm an artist, everyone, I'm an artist, making sure everyone knew that that was who I was. So um, it ended up getting to a point, I think 2 years in, where everyone's encouraged to meet with Gary, just because he likes to meet everyone who works for him. And during my meeting, instead of we all get like 10 minutes, and during my meeting, instead of just being like, hi, great to work for you and stuff like that, I did research on Gary. I wanted to see what he was doing. He was building VFriends at the time, like, as from the ground up, and I had so many ideas. I was like, oh my gosh, I have a vision for what he's trying to do, and I think I can actually really be a benefit. So during my meeting, I pitched him. I think it was just a different overall vibe to what he was doing. I think he was promoting the younger children's show, and I was like, oh, but it would be so cool if we like age this up. So I showed him like a redesign of Entrepreneur Elf, who was really like going through it. He's really like dirty and just really hustling, and he had this like kind of creepy vibe to him. And I was like, Gary, we could be doing this type of stuff. Like, I pitched it to him, and I think he saw my passion. He liked my ideas, and so he hired me to come on to VeeFriends and leave VaynerMedia and do. At first, I was a platform strategist producer for TikTok and for Instagram. So I was making a lot of like animations. I was doing storyboards and sending the storyboards to other animators. I was doing illustrations, all of this stuff. Once again, I wasn't an animator technically, but I had the passion and the grit to just push through it and learn as I was going. And I learned a lot from patient coworkers who were teaching me so much about all of the things that I didn't know. But at the end of the day, I am a storyteller, so like I was able to really like flourish when it came to that type of strength. And eventually I heard that we were doing, DJ had come on and he started doing his comics. And there were rumors about like creating a writer's room and creating the world of VFriends. And I did the same thing that I did at VaynerMedia, which I was relentless. And I was like, please get me in the writer's room. I want to be a comic book artist. I want to tell the stories and things like that. And so that when the writers room finally was created, they included me, they took me on, they brought me over to the comic side. And honestly, I'm way better as a illustrator, as a comic book artist, than I was as an animator, because animation is so hard and time consuming. And oh boy, it's a big Chris Faison is an animator, and he's so fast as an illustrator due to his animation background. So like I commend him for that. But yeah, so and also I did comics and art, like I said, in the background. Like in my private life, I've been working on this comic for like 7 years. It's like a huge project that I've been working on. So like ultimately, I guess in a funny way, I was preparing for this job like since the beginning, with all of the different things that I've learned along the way. And now here I am, and releasing my first comic published. It's so exciting.
It's remarkable, your story, because I think of comics as a really complex thing. Like to make a good comic, I don't know. I made comics for a decade or something before I was like, oh, this one's okay. Uh, and so much of what you bring to the comics part is kind of self-taught. And it's just incredible to see your comics at this level as a relatively young comic book maker. You
Yeah,
talk about Doggy
thanks.
Daycare being your first comic, and it's not technically your first. You've made other comics. You made comics before VFriends. It's not even the first VFriends comics you made. It's just the first one that is being released or published.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's still, it's not a huge body of comics work on your resume. And yet, I saw the first creative offsite. You read one of your first comics at that offsite, and it was really impressive. I remember coming away from that offsite, and I think the entire team that has been assembled at VFriends in terms of the comic book makers, I think they're all remarkable. But given your experience level, I remember leaving and being like, wow, that's the person who will end up being a superstar here. Like it's just your
oh,
initial starting point is so high. It's kind of mind blowing. But I guess your
thank
story,
you.
it seems like you're learning. The word slips my mind now. You're teaching yourself a lot of this stuff, and it
Yeah,
seems like maybe that's how you've been for your whole life or for a long
always,
time. It
since
really comes
forever.
through. I think it's a
Thank you.
great
Yeah,
I think it's a great asset because it makes your voice unique. There are a lot of comics programs now in schools, and I'm a little bit jealous of. There weren't whenever I was a student. There were like two.
hmm,
Now I think
yeah.
most schools offer some sort of comics education, and it's really fantastic in a lot of ways. But I do think you can have a sameness that can come out of that. And whereas if you're learning this on your own, I think you're more likely to maybe develop your voice more. And that's my favorite part of comics is because they can be done with such a small team and sometimes just one person. It's a very personal type of storytelling, and that's what I like. I want to see something
Yeah.
that I wouldn't think of myself, or I wouldn't come up with a team, or I don't see in culture, kind of the wider pop culture out there. And I think comics offer that. But your background, I think, lends itself to that too. By teaching yourself, you're sort of developing your voice as you're developing those skills, and the end result is comics like nobody else is going to make.
I appreciate you saying that. That's actually my philosophy, that has really helped me overcome my imposter syndrome. Is that, like coming from a self-taught background, I always thought that that might be a weakness. And maybe in some aspects it is, but ultimately I have come to find that it's one of my greatest strengths, is that I have such a different perspective. And that does make me stand out amongst like a bunch of highly professional people. Same thing with everything that I do in life. I kind of have overcome this hurdle of just standing with my own authentic self and being very proud of my perspective of the world and the things that I come to appreciate. Like growing up, I was a huge gamer. Like for example, I was a huge gamer, only child, so I really relied on games to like entertain me. And I was gaming for a long time before I ever met other gamers, right? And all of the games consisted of very hyper feminine games, like very girly games, dress up games, Bratz games, things like that. And so when I entered the gamer space that was dominated by men, boys at the time, they all kind of like denied my label, my self-given label of gamer, because I wasn't playing the games that they were playing. Like I wasn't playing Call of Duty and any of the popular like games. Halo at the time was huge, and that really gave me like, oh, maybe do I like this? Am I even a video game person? Like I was so confused by it, and I embraced their games. I really tried to like, during high school when you're trying to figure it out, I was like, if I'm a gamer, that means like I must be like a tomboy. I must be into this really boyish stuff in order to like I guess justify my interests. And as I grew older and the things that I really like started shining out, which is like I really like the girly stuff. I can't get away from it. I've really embraced it. And so now, even as a comic book artist and like the things that I choose to read, right, which is like what we were gonna get into is like when I was reading comics as a kid, I was like obsessed with Archie. I love Archie comics. I collected them. Something about I don't know, maybe my grandma's influence or something, but I love the cast of characters. I love the romance. I love the just slice of life things, and also the fantastical episodes whenever they had like Sabrina the Teenage Witch come in and things like that. Like I loved that. And then I would meet like comic book readers, and they're like, okay, what about Superman? And I'm like, I don't know about Super. I could tell you about Archie when he dressed like Superman or something, but like, yeah, like it still is part of my identity that I am a comic reader and I am a gamer, but I might not just be into the things that are most popular, and that doesn't like make me less of those labels. And so yeah, that's really like been my whole philosophy, like with my art now. I don't want to sacrifice things like my hyper femininity. I never want to sacrifice that just for the sophistication, or for things to be deemed sophisticated. So partially, if you want to bring it up on the Miro,
Yes.
like my comic that I've been working on, The Great King, is basically what I like to call Barbie Game of Thrones. I'm a huge, huge Game of Thrones nerd. I love the complexity, the moral grayness, the darkness, and the reflective themes to what's going on politically in our world and things like that. Like I love Game of Thrones. And then I also really like my hyper feminine like stuff, like my Barbie and my Bratz. I was a big doll girl, so I love like all of the different doll lines. And I kind of was like, why does it have to be one or the other? Why must every time I talk about princess or sparkles, like it must be dumbed down to for like children? And I was like, no, I can feel so comfortable in this aesthetic and tell these like really mature stories. And I think it's not done a lot. As much as I'd like to see. I think it's becoming more, but more
And
popular.
the Great King, that was a webtoon series that you had done, correct?
Yeah, so The Great King is, yeah, it's a webtoon series. I started it, I think I got like 10 episodes in, and then I scrapped the whole thing. So this is all from like the first run through. I restarted the story because, you know, to tell a story like George R. Martin is like insane. It's so complex. There's so many side stories and worlds and religions and politics and so many things that like I just really was like, I need to take my time with this. I know that I've been talking about it. Like if anybody knows me in my life, they know of this story because I have been talking about it since I was 21, and I was like deconstructing my whole world and really trying to like make sense of everything. And this was kind of like that. It's like a reflection. Like the main girl, her name is Juniper. She like looks like me, but I would say she's my mom. Like she's nothing like me in the least bit. She's everything that my mom is and what I admire in my mom, her strength, her complexity, her flaws, all of the things. Um, But I did make her look like me because I another thing that I really like am passionate about is making more women who just look different. You know, we there are a lot of sameness when it comes to art and like, you know, the zeitgeist of beauty and things like that. So I kind of was like, I never got to see a princess who looked like me. So I kind of designed that for my own selfish
Yeah, I
reasons.
had showed these a minute ago, and they
Yes,
have some of
these.
that quality of being atypical body types, different looks, different styles. And you mentioned this
Yeah.
was one of your early viral online viral hits. Um, yeah,
Yeah, this
I
is a
like everything you're saying, Ali, because I think forever in my life I feel like comics. There's nothing inherent about comics that makes them exclusively for a group, whether it's an age
mhm.
group, a gender, you know, whatever the case may be. Like it's just an art form. Like everybody should be able to participate in it and also find work that speaks to them. So I do
Yeah,
think we are getting to an age now where it is much more diverse than it's ever been before comics.
for
So
sure.
I'm happy you're here and making the kind of comics that you want to make and that you want to see because I just think it's
Yeah.
better for everything. It grows the audience, you know, it makes more creators, which in turn makes a bigger talent pool and hopefully yields better work overall. So it's yeah, I your story is
Yeah.
it's a good one,
Thanks.
no
Yeah, my
doubt.
goal is to you know, my friends, my girlfriends are like my family truly. I love them so much and but they're not nerds. None of my girlfriends are nerds, really. And so part of my motivation is that I want the what I call my baddies. I want the baddies to be into comics. I want them to be interested and like, you know, part of the way to do that is to speak to them in aesthetics and stories that they recognize and that they're familiar with. And like, you know, one thing about all of my friends is they're all Barbie girls, really. And so like I know how to appeal to them and show them stories, like I said, in worlds in an art form and in aesthetic that they're comfortable with, that they recognize within themselves, even within me. And so like I've been motivated by like getting just a new audience to be really into comics. Like in going to Comic Con this year, I try to talk to a lot of women and hear out like what they had to say, like what they want to see in comics. And it's basically they describe my work. Like it was really exciting to hear like they wanted this blend of genres and not to like be so monolithic when it comes to you know, women centered stories. Like, you know, it tends to be romance related and then it's like also like very babyish sometimes, but like then sometimes they're really cool. I don't know, like a lot of the artists that I follow, a lot of the comic artists that I really love are all on Webtoon. They're all very niche indie artists, but they're so expressive and like they tell such unique stories. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on there. And here, this is my first, I guess my true first published book. It's like an Amazon children's book I was hired to do by this guy Daniel Curtis Lee, who if anyone's seen Ned's Declassified or Zeke and Luther, he's an old Disney Channel or Nickelodeon star, I believe. And he's a good friend of mine, and he asked me to make this Jungle Lee band for his family, who's like full of musicians. And that was like really exciting for a young artist. I was like, look at me. I have a Disney
Very
star
cool.
commissioning my story or my art.
Yeah, very awesome. You know, the other thing that stands out, Ali, when you're telling your story and kind of how you get to this point is self advocacy. And that might be something that you grew up with, and it's just something you kind of don't think about. But I know so many people, especially, you know, like most of my friends are somehow connected to arts. And I see so many of them that don't ask for what they want. You know, they don't advocate for themselves. They don't put it out clearly to the person who could hire them or could put them in the position to do the thing they want to do. They don't go out of their way to like say it clearly and say it to the person who is the editor or is the publisher or is the manager or, you know, whatever the person is that can help you actually achieve that. And you know, that's something your story is kind of full of, is advocating for
Yeah.
yourself, which I would love to see more artists and more creatives do more of that, because I think we undervalue ourselves and our skill set. And, you know, the thing with art is, you mentioned it's subjective, but it's also unique to the artist. So it's not like that can just be replaced. There can't be
Right.
another Ali Castro if you go off and do something else, or another Jim Rugg if I go off and do something else. Like, we bring this unique skill set, so we need to value that ourselves. And hopefully, maybe that's a generational thing too. But I would
That's
love to see more artists stand up for themselves and ask directly for what they want.
absolutely. That's fully my mom. That's my mom. That's my mom's philosophy shining through me. My mom is love her. She's awesome, but she is like she's a professor and she teaches like life success and career success. And so that's really helped me. And one of the best advice that the best advice that she gave me is just to ask. Like 90% of people don't even ask. They
Right.
wait and they wait for the opportunities. They don't go out and seize it. And they wait until they feel like prepared and ready. But like I've really, as I said, like I stumble along. I don't know. I'm not a professional, but that doesn't mean I don't say I'm not a professional, right? Like I'm not like before I was a comic artist, I was telling everyone I was a comic artist. Before I was an animator, I was telling everyone I was an animator because that's what I really wanted to do. And like I said, like the more you talk about it, the more you say it's like people are going to believe you. You have this confidence. If you demand it from the universe will like bend to your demands. And it's just like constant, just reminding everyone this is what I want to do. And it reminds myself, it forms my identity. The more that we say we're unprepared, the more that we say we're not this or that, then we start to believe it. But the more that you say the opposite, like you really will start to believe that as well.
Well, there are two parts to that too. One is definitely saying it and asking people for what you want. The other part is doing it. Like, we're looking at some of your past work, but a lot of this stuff is stuff that it's just a self-starter. Like, you did it. You did it because you wanted to make a comic on Webtoons. You want to redesign these princess designs. You want to play with Powerpuff Girl. Like, you were doing the work. It's not like you were just saying, I want to be a cartoonist, but then not doing the work. You were doing the
True.
work while saying
True.
it, while putting yourself in a position to become a professional at it. So, I think that's the other part. One is you've got to put in the time and actually do it. And I think that's something that young artists, especially whenever you're young and starting out, you're probably going to have more time than any other point in your life. And it may suck that you're eating, ramen noodles for 3 meals a day or something, but you
Yeah.
have to look at what advantages you have. And the advantage is, well, if no one's paying me, it means I can do what I want. I can kind of shine. I can make the comic I want to make. And I think you have to take advantage of those elements too. It's a couple of things, but I think the advocacy thing is really a big deal. My wife is also a professor, and she teaches special ed. And part of their curriculum is self advocacy for their students.
Hmm.
So it's something, whenever I say it, it's something I'm aware of because I hear it, from a slightly different angle, but I see it the same way. Like, I always tell people, like, make people tell you no. Like, don't tell yourself no. Ask
Yeah.
them for that job, ask them for that opportunity, make them tell you
Rejection
no,
therapy.
rather than doing it for yourself, because you just never know what's going to work. Sometimes it's just that small opportunity that leads to bigger things. We are getting near the end of our time, so I do want to let anybody, if they have questions for you, please
Oh
put
yeah.
those in the chats, people, and we'll try to get a couple of quick questions. And while we're waiting, I have a question for you. Do you have a
Okay.
favorite dog from Doggy Daycare? Was there favorite personality, favorite to draw, something like that? Any of them stand out to you?
I really like a favorite dog. Dang. I like them all like a lot. It's really hard because they all have their unique personalities. I think that badass bulldog was really like my comedic relief of the story. So he has a lot of the jokes and a lot of the more like larger than life personality things going on. So it's funny because he is badass. So like, yes, I try to make him badass, but I also just try to make him like a bit of a clown and kind of funny. So yeah, that was really fun to me. I like I don't know, the duality of him being like a klutz and then also being badass. Like I just love that.
Yeah, I think the having a comedic character is so much fun in a story, especially whenever it's not just, you know, a straight up comedy, but there's just one that's kind of clowning around and adding levity is a really good thing. Do you have
Yeah.
a favorite V friend overall?
Fearless Fairy. Fearless Fairy, hands down, is my favorite. She stands for everything that I'm passionate about. You know, like I love the fearlessness and I love her being a fairy. Like both of those things together is exactly like my whole vibe and aesthetic. So like I really like and appreciate Fearless Fairy. And then close second is Ambitious Angel for the same reason. I love that she's an angel. I love that she's ambitious. Like I just love the two things that I feel like most people don't expect for those things to go together. And I love that.
Yeah,
It makes me feel powerful.
very good. Well, we are at 1 o'clock, and sadly, I don't have questions coming in at the bottom of the chat. There may have been some a little bit early. Let me scroll through just to make sure we didn't miss any
Ah,
big
no
ones early
worries.
on.
I thanks everyone too in chat. I've been silently reading. You guys are all so sweet and funny, and I'm glad that you're resonating with my art. That really makes me feel so well, so good.
Yeah, I'm excited for everybody to see Doggy Daycare. The other part that happens with comic books is you put in so much time making them, you know, and by the time they're released, it's like you're working on your next comic. And so
Yeah.
it'll be exciting to actually have this one back in front of everybody. And here's a
Oh,
question
I see
from Ann
questions.
Bag. Do you have any advice for young artists? My daughter is 9 and draws all day.
I think she's doing great. That's exactly what I did when I was 9. I constantly drew for everything and even the newspapers. There was this game called Club Penguin. I drew comics for that just because I wanted to. So I think she's doing if she's drawing all day, just have her keep doing that. I think that's awesome. That's the only muscle that I really used when I was young. Like that's my whole background is just if people ask me if I went to college for art, I'm like, no, I just drew constantly.
Did you ever have a period when you weren't drawing?
Yeah, yeah, in high school. In high school, I mean, I kind of did when I was trying to raise money, but that's probably the least amount of time that I was drawing was because I was trying to be an actress and I was really locked in it onto acting. So during that time was probably, yeah, the time that I was not drawing as much.
All right, we've got another one here from Jeremy. What's been the biggest surprise for you building the comics program?
Biggest surprise. Honestly, I think seeing the animation come to life of the comics. Like for example, there's a sizzle video that the promo video for Doggy Daycare, seeing that animated literally like I think I cried a little bit because it was so, ultimately my end goal is to get into animation, be like a showrunner, not necessarily an animator, but I do want to see the stories come to life, and seeing my comic come to life just in that sizzle video, like it meant so much to me. And like I had like
Oh no. I am not sure, but that may have been Allie's battery going on her laptop. Um, so we are going to wrap up here. First of all, thank you, Allie, for joining us. This has been a really awesome show, and I've had a good time, and it was great to get to learn a little bit more about your story. I want to thank everybody who joined us and watched today live and added some questions for us. And you know, keep your eyes peeled as we roll out Doggy Daycare over the next week on VFriends, on all their channels. And until then, you can read all of the VFriends comics from issue 0 to issue 12 on VFriends.com. And we will be back next week. Thank you, guys.